All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Dana Scranton, and welcome once again to the Pursuit of Wisdom and our ongoing series on the six basic human needs and how to use them as an entrepreneur to help your marketplace and the individuals therein, as well as yourself, to achieve a greater life. That's what it's all about. So, this is the last of the individual needs, the significance. We've gone through the prior five. And this will be the end of the focus on individual needs. Following this episode, I'll probably record one or two episodes where we're going to talk about a more in-depth understanding of what all this means in the scheme of life as an entrepreneur, and with more of a focus on those six elements of human wellness, because as you have seen in this series, that's kind of where it really resides. And this is why I do what I do. I take the six basic human needs and I overlay them on the six elements of human wellness, because that's where the needs really have their impact. Well, with that said, what I'd like to do at this point is get into the presentation and get on with the discussion. So let me pull up the charts, and there they are. Okay, focus on significance. So what is significance in the context of the six basic human needs? Well, here are four ideas to consider: self-worth, motivation, social dynamics, purpose, and meaning. Now, you can read this. I'm not going to read them to you. But here is the significance of significance. Ultimately, it's about self-worth. Do people feel valued? Do they feel worthy? Do they feel like they belong? Do they contribute? Okay. Ultimately, that's what significance is about. Do I matter? The question, right? Aligned with that are social dynamics. Who do I matter to? Who is important for me to matter to? And so this is what your customer, your client, your team member, your affiliate, your family members may be asking. And that significance, who they matter to, is a big deal. So that's part of what you have to understand, right? And then there's purpose and meaning. We as humans thrive on purpose and the meaning thereof. But oftentimes, all too often, people are living without purpose. They're not living on purpose. They're just living. They're getting by. Our purpose as entrepreneurs is to help them rise above that, to be, do, have, and give more for having lived a life with a purpose associated with it. And finally, motivation. You know, mattering, meaning, valued, being significant is a source of motivation. When we know that we desire and crave significance, we'll do the things that are necessary to acquire that, especially when somebody like you tells us you can do this and shows them the way. So here's a couple, three quotes that I thought might be relevant to what we're going to be talking about today. Now, Ralph Waldo Emerson said this one, and I'll come back to it in just a minute after we talk about it. But here it is. The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. When I first read that quote many years ago, that first sentence kind of struck me as one of those, huh, kind of moments. The purpose of life is not to be happy. Well, that goes contrary to just about everything that you hear, learn, feel, and want, right? But when you read the rest of it, it makes sense. It says this, it says, to be happy, you must live well. I mean, interpret it that way. And to live well, you live to your fullest, that you contributed, that you mattered, that you were significant to the world, and in so doing made others significant. Think of it that way. James Williams said the great use of life is to spend it for something that will outlast it. Now, there's an old saying, and it basically goes like this. In fact, it's not all that old. It says you die twice. First, when your physical body dies, and the second time, the last time your name is mentioned. You know, I've heard that a number of times, and I find that to be just not really true. You never die. Why is that? Well, here's why. Your physical body may die. But if you have lived well, if you have mattered, if you have contributed, if you have helped other people to rise above their state of life, to be, do, have, and give more, then your life continues. Your impact, your legacy goes on forever. It's like that butterfly effect, right? Question, when a butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon, does it impact any other part of the world? Well, the answer to the question is yes, because that energy perpetuates, it diffuses, and it may not be noticeable, maybe just absolutely infinitesimal, you'd never notice it, but it's there. But as a human, as an entrepreneur, you can make a difference. You can make an impact to instruct, to inspire, to move people forward in life. That moves forever, okay? Finally, T.S. Eliot, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Now, on the surface, that sounds like there's no relevance to significance, but there is. Because how far will you go to bring significance to the lives of others? That's what that really says. How far will you go? Will you go the extra mile, the extra 2 miles? Will you use your entrepreneurial resourcefulness and courage and conviction to move beyond the comfort zone, beyond the barriers of reason to affect your purpose on the world? And so that's what that says. Now, significance is, among other things, knowing that they matter, are unique, are loved, and the list goes on. In other words, what people crave as significant is situationally and personally dependent. It moves around and it really overlays onto those 6 elements of human wellness. Ultimately, people want to feel valued. That's what it's all about. Valued how? That's the questions that we ask. When we look at the 6 elements of human wellness, part of the reason we ask the questions that I have developed in the prior episodes is so that we can gain a better appreciation for the how of it all, right? Okay, the hierarchy. So we're at the end of the 6 basic human needs, and here is the hierarchy of how they flow. Now, before I go back over these again, what I want to impress upon you is 6 basic human needs can be in any order. I have chosen this order because it makes sense, because it flows naturally and it helps you to remember them and understand how they work in the lives of others. For example, the need for certainty creates the need for change. To be more certain, you have to change something. Change leads to growth. Growth leads to the possibilities of connection and the opportunities of life. It leads to the ability to contribute. Contribution creates new opportunities, new seeds that flourish into many different forms of fruits in your life, and that leads to significance. And significance leads to being valued, confident, and it works together. All of the 6 basic human needs ultimately work together. So here we go. The 6 basic human needs overlaid on the 6 elements of human wellness. Now, for each of these episodes, I don't go into the questions that we're going to ask here on every single one of these. I'm just giving them to you as the template so that you can ask them and use your own form. So today is significance, and here's how significant fits. Significance is one of those things that people crave, they desire, they want it because it helps them feel valued, but they fear insignificance. That's something that they don't want to live, to be insignificant, to be unworthy, right? So this is a fundamental understanding. Understand that they crave significance, and it's up to you to determine what kind of significance and how you might be able to help them to achieve that. So here's our 3 questions. Now, for those who are coming into this on the last episode, these 3 questions have essentially this purpose. First of all, for you to ask these questions in this form is to help you understand how it works, to help you understand where your needs are being fulfilled or not, so that you have more empathy with the marketplace, with that persona, that avatar that you're focusing on in your marketing and your message and in your relationships. These 3 questions enable you to get a better understanding of how the 6 basic human needs overlay on the 6 elements of human wellness so that you can better formulate your whole plan and your actions. So here we go with significance. When my need for significance of relationships is fulfilled, my, pick one of these, my spiritual state will be better, the same, or worse. Well, sometimes it doesn't matter, but that's the whole purpose of asking these questions. So in this particular case, if you are fulfilled in any of these elements of human wellness, you may feel valued. If you're not fulfilled in the next question, which is where we're going to get to, then that has its own repercussions. But here, if you are fulfilled, if you have fulfilled your wellness of relationships, and significance is the key need that you're satisfying, can it ever be unworthy? Can it ever be worse? Well, the way I give the answer to that is we don't know, and that's why we ask the question. Okay. When my need for significance of wellness of relationships is fulfilled, my intellectual state will be better, the same, or worse. Well, if it's better, any of these, you're going to feel valued. If it's the same, you may be confused. Am I significant or am I not? What do I need to do to move forward? This is where you come in, the entrepreneur. But what if it's worse? Well, you feel unworthy. You feel unworthy in that area. If your spiritual significance to the peer group that you work with, that you associate with, is in a worse state than you want it to be, you are feeling unworthy. So when we ask the question about our customers, you now ask as if you were them. Having gone through this as you now ask as if you were them, and this gives you better clarity as to what it means to have a need fulfilled. Now, the opposite question is when my need for significance of relationships, wellness of relationships is unfulfilled, my spiritual state will be better, the same, or worse. If it's better, we feel valued. Same, we're confused. If it's worse, we feel unworthy. So what we're really saying here by answering the question when it's unfulfilled, what are the consequences of not fulfilling that need? And you as an entrepreneur, understanding the consequences of that, can now craft your plan, your message to address this. That's the plan. Now, last question. When there is no significance in the state of my relationships wellness, my pick one state will be better, the same, or worse. Now, what is this question? This is the so what question, okay? It's not to say that it's fulfilled or it's unfulfilled. There just is no significance in it, right? And so what you're asking here is you're asking yourself, and you're asking as a customer, client, associate, affiliate, whatever, you are asking if this particular need simply goes unfulfilled, it's just null. It's just there, but there's no influence on it one way or the other. So what? Is that a problem? Does that make it better, the same, or does that make it worse? Well, if you are ignoring one of the 6 basic human needs because you haven't thought about it, it doesn't seem to matter to you, then you're going to ask this question, and you're going to come up with, I don't know, I feel valued. Do I feel unworthy? Am I confused? No, I'm none of these. That tells you that that need is not something you need to focus on. But look, it's a basic human need. The real message is if that answer is when there is no significance in, and you pick one of these, and there is an answer on this side of the equation here, this side of the column, then that's something that you as an entrepreneur can work on. There are segments of the population where they may have a basic human need. Let's say it's, well, let's pick that spiritual one. It's a basic human need, but in a segment of the population, it's just, there's no fulfillment of it because it's not important. The question then is, okay, it's not important, but will their state of any of these in the column, physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, financial, be better, the same, or worse? If they don't pay any attention to it, if it doesn't matter, is that true? That's what this is really about. This is the so what question. All right, so we are here, and significance is the last one. But because it's at the end of the list does not mean it's less important. It just means that the order, the hierarchy that I presented to you has a flow to it, and it's just how I teach it. So here is the entrepreneurial question. This is how you apply it. I'm going to ask these questions. In each one of these questions is the lesson. Does your product, that's goods, services, or leadership, help them fulfill one or more of the 6 basic human needs? If it doesn't, you don't have a product. If it does, how well do you do in that area? What can you do more effectively? Does the fulfillment of any need create a heightened state of wellness in one or more of the 6 elements of human wellness? That's why we ask those questions. Because if you, through your product, can answer yes to that question, that's a point of marketing focus. You can branch out to the other elements of human wellness if you need be, but identify the one that produces the greatest impact. That is where you'll get the best return on your energy, your money, your time, your effort. Is your messaging to the market congruent with their need for and expectation of fulfillment of wellness? So when you satisfy a basic human need and those elements of human wellness are positively impacted or not, is your messaging giving them the hint that they ought to be thinking about that? Is your messaging focusing on the 6 elements of human wellness that should be important to them that you identified by asking those prior questions? And if so, that's an area of focus, isn't it? Does your presence and engagement result in elevating members of the market to doing, being, having, and giving more? In other words, living a greater life. Your presence and engagement, what does that mean? It means your leadership, your message, your unique way of marketing to that target group, because now you understand this particular way of doing it. I mean, there's many other ways that I'm sure you do it, and you're probably very good at it, but this is just a way of augmenting what you already do, maybe. And finally, does the customer, client, affiliate, team member, whatever it may be, have a greater sense of significance of having associated with you and your product, or for having associated with you and your product? The answer to that question, you strive to be yes, but you have to ask it objectively. When you've gone through these questions, you've developed your plan, your market, your approach. You've got these questions answered. You've got a plan. You're out there executing. The obvious question is, well, does the customer benefit? Do one or more of their 6 basic human needs become fulfilled? And if so, or not, what's the impact? And how can I make that impact more profound, more beneficial? That's really the question that is asked in this entrepreneurial game we're in. It's our way of saying, do we matter? Are we significant? Our significance should be, at least in part, tied to how we influence the marketplace. So that's it. That's the 6 basic human needs. Now, all of this is unscripted, by the way. This is just me bringing to you what's on my mind and on my heart as an entrepreneur. So I hope you can take that to heart and understand that there's a lot more beyond all this. That's why I have taught it, so that you can now take this, put your spin on it, dig deeper, go out and see if you can make a difference with this approach. So if this approach has had any significance to you at all, please feel free to lob a comment down below the videos. I appreciate those. And it helps me to develop the next series more effectively. All right, well, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being part of this series. Stay tuned for some of the summary videos that we're going to go into beyond the six basic human needs, it may be what I call it. And we'll see you out there on that frontier of opportunity and possibility where all the things of life are available to you and the people that you serve. And we'll, of course, see you in the next episode. Take care.